21. Tina is thrilled when she wakes up the next night, whichever night it might be. She has lost count of the nights she's spent in their care. She's still blindfolded, wearing the hospital gown from a couple of nights ago, or maybe it's been a few nights. She's terrified of what they're doing, sensing that her captors are up to no good.
You did real good for us, girlie. Full recovery.
A quiet man's voice says, from a few steps away from the hospital bed she's still on, handcuffed to the rails. The voice grows louder as he steps closer, his footsteps echoing on the concrete floor of the mysterious building.
We need more blood, so you'll feel the prick.
She feels the cold hand grasp her leg, and the prick of the needle in each leg as they draw more blood from her. She asks quietly,
I'm glad they ended up okay. Are you going to let me go now?
She feels a chuckle more than hears it, and she knows it's basically not happening. She saves one stranger's life by taking out a bullet a little bit ago, but knows it is hopeful thinking that they'll let her go. She tries to flinch as a hand grabs her chin, but she can't pull away, the deep voice says.
No, sweet thing, if we let you leave, it'll be because you've served your purpose, and you most certainly haven't.
She pulls her head back as more of her blood is siphoned from her legs. A recent friend once told her that with practice, she could keep blood from leaving her body, like pulling blood back from a cut. But she hasn't managed it, or maybe she just can't concentrate. The voice continues.
We have another patient for you, more bone scar tissue to clear off. The bullet lodged in the muscle some time ago, and we want you to pull it out to ease the pain. If you do well again, we'll leave you alone for another couple of days. Try anything funny, and well, you know.
She can tell his head is moving side to side, a subtle warning. She doesn't need long to consider, she'll either be drained or fed, and at least pulling bullets isn't reshaping or harming others. Tina pleads.
Can I please have more blood? You drain me so often.
She works on sounding pathetic, figuring out how to deal with each voice to see who might be easier to reason with. Footsteps walk away, and she hears a rustling sound, like plastic being moved. She's figured out a few things and is working on something new. With her ability to manipulate her own flesh and bone, she can sharpen her nails to scratch a message into the bed, but what would help? Tina was here. Seems too basic, though. Maybe just help? She'll think of something better. Listening is all Tina can do for a long time. She hears snippets of conversation as they walk away, straining to pick up her surroundings. She's tired of falling asleep out of boredom, helpless and frustrated. Her blood power lets her decrease her muscle size, which could help her escape, but she needs to touch them to manipulate them, and her hands are tied. If she were just handcuffed, there'd be a little wiggle room, but they've tied her with rope. When she pulls on one side, the other arm moves too, as if tied with a single length of rope. Her legs seem bound in the same way, lifting one leg presses the other against the bed, and the rope scrapes against the plastic under her. She tries loosening her bindings each night, but by the time she wakes up, they're tightened again. She's tested to see if her arms could reach each other, but they're just out of reach. She tries to slide up or down to gain slack, but it's all in vain. Each night, her efforts are reset. She overhears Zook talk about different blood-based powers, including heightened hearing. Maybe it's a skill she could develop. Left alone for hours, except for the occasional bloodletting, she attempts to listen for anything, footsteps, snoring, even a mouse or a prowling cat. But there's nothing. Not even her heartbeat to comfort her. She wonders if her blood powers could function without blood. Some do, perhaps they might work if she could pull the vampire blood she has left. If only they'd let her have more blood, she could test the theory. But for now, she's exhausted from wiggling and loosening ropes, so she lies there, upset and waiting. What feels like hours pass. She imagines her blood dripping into bags, the life she took from others now replenished with animal blood. She has too much time to think, confined to this bed. Finally, she hears footsteps on the concrete, and turns her head toward the sound. They approach her bed, and whoever it is, carefully removes the needles from her legs. A man's voice, one she hasn't heard before, says,
"Here's some more blood."
She feels a tube pressed to her lips, and eagerly drinks. The man continues,
"The next person you'll be helping will be here tomorrow night. As before, you'll follow instructions and won't deviate. If you do well, you'll be rewarded."
Mumbling through the tube, Tina mutters something sarcastic that he probably wouldn't appreciate hearing. As she finishes one bag, another is prepared. Tina asks,
Can I get a radio in here? I don't care what's playing, I'm so bored.
"Do well, and we'll get you a radio." "Fair enough."
Another blood bag is placed at her lips, and she drinks it greedily. Tina wakes up on a rolling bed, her head swimming. The texture under her hand suggests a hospital, though she's blindfolded, as usual.
Oh good, you're awake.
Says one of the miscellaneous voices she's learned to recognize.
We can't move you yet. This place is too crowded right now, but soon. Start screaming and...
Yeah. I get it, the usual. Where are we?
Doesn't matter to you. We're in a clinic. You'll be working on another.
Silence stretches for nearly half a minute. Tina focuses, trying to pull blood to her head and fuel her hearing. She catches someone speaking faintly through a phone in the distance.
Doctors Windowski and Brooks are on call. Try to reach one of them.
As the names reach her, it's like a wave crashing toward her head, suddenly sharpening her sense of every sound. She hears the beeps of dozens of machines, the distant shouts of elderly patients, and a wailing, desperate voice pleading over and over. Heavy breathing echoes close to her ear, almost overwhelming her senses. She lets go, pushes the blood away from her head, and keeps those names tucked away. Windowski and Brooks. Windows, like something she hasn't seen in days, and Brooks, like a character from an old movie, a serial killer maybe.
Who are you having me help here? They aren't just random old people, are they?
Heavy footsteps quickly approach, full of irritation. She flinches away from them.
Wait. Not that I need to know, just filling the silence.
A quiet warning comes as someone moves away from her side.
A captive doesn't get to ask questions.
Captive? Look, I'm starting to like y'all, and you are starting to grow on me. Maybe after this we can all go get some drinks, maybe go bowling, and...
The footsteps grow louder and closer again. Just as she's about to be reprimanded, another voice breaks in.
Don't make her waste blood tonight. She's obviously kidding. You shouldn't be upsetting anyone here.
Who shouldn't I upset? I don't even know who you all are, you haven't let me see anyone. And I don't have any blood powers to mess with people by looking at them, anyway.
She senses she's struck a nerve. The voice falls silent, leaving her alone with her thoughts. Feeling drained from her previous attempt to boost her hearing, she asks,
I'll need some blood if you want me to work tonight. Can I please have a little more?
Aren't you fine as is?
Well, I'm not close to full, no. You all took so much yesterday and it takes blood to do this. I'm going to be digging around in someone's hip, and I'd rather not feel tempted to lick the blood off my hands mid-surgery.
It's fine, give her one of the bags.
The earlier whisperer rummages around, brushing a plastic tube against her lips. Tina latches onto it, slowly drawing in the strange, metallic taste of the blood she's surviving on. Sipping carefully, she tries again to pull blood to her head, listening for any new clues. After a minute, she begins picking up more than she anticipated. There are at least 6 people breathing around her, each with their own subtle, unique rhythm. She focuses on one with a strange wetness in his mouth, the sound of saliva rolling around, a curious habit, but nothing she can make sense of right now. The doctors' names, she reminds herself. Windowski and Brooks. She can't forget those. Shifting her focus beyond the room, she realizes the only other sounds are the steady heartbeats of her captors, each pulse hinting at the rich blood flowing through their veins. Her own pulse, however, is silent, a reminder of her undeadness. She lets the blood pool away from her head and continues sipping the bag slowly, wondering how long she'll be here in silence.
It's good now. Let's get to it. Tina, keep the blindfold on. We'll guide your hand to the wheelchair.
After untying her hands and legs, they instruct her to sit up, then stand, before guiding her to the wheelchair. As she settles into the chair, they zip-tie her arms and legs in place.
We have one person with a stake behind you and one in front. Don't try anything. A nurse will assist you, but you're not allowed any tools. You'll tell them what to do, aside from using suction to clear the blood. Don't take the blindfold off or look around the room.
They place a surgical mask over her mouth. She sits in the cold quiet as they move her down hallways, take a few turns, then stop. Inside the operating room, she hears faint beeping and the hiss of a breathing machine nearby.
Hello everyone. Dr. Tina here. Let's save a life.
She announces with mock enthusiasm.
I'd shake your hands, but I'm a bit tied up at the moment. Speaking of which, I didn't wash my hands. Any chance I could do that?
Someone tries to quiet her, but she continues.
Could I get some gloves with the fingertips cut off? Just so I can.
A hand covers her mouth, cutting her off mid-sentence. A voice nearby says,
She's joking. Watch the patient, and we'll handle the rest.
A hand grabs her arm, and with a whisper instructs.
Very funny. You're still not among friends, and you're not getting freed. Do not take the blindfold off. We'll get it for you, and don't look back. Just help the man in front of you.
So kind of you. Fine, fine. I still need gloves with the fingertips cut out, and this mask is uncomfortable.
They finally cut the zip ties, letting them clatter to the floor. She stands, holds out her hands as instructed, and surgical gloves are slipped on. Someone awkwardly snips off the glove fingertips. They remove her blindfold, and she squints down at the man on the table before quickly adjusting her mask. An X-ray rests on the man's stomach. She picks it up, studies the grainy black and white image of his hip for a moment, then lets it slide off to the floor. The nurse speaks.
What do you need me to do, doctor?
Heh. Doctor. All right, the scarring and bullet are in the hip here, so let's keep his underwear on, yeah? And, his gut's in the way, so I'll need someone to hold that back.
Surprisingly, the nurse obliges without hesitation, hoisting up the man's belly without complaint. Tina indicates where to make the incision, then waits as a nearby surgeon, or guy with a scalpel, she doesn't know, cuts along her markings and sets up suction to pull away the pooling blood. She pushes her fingers into the muscle, using her powers to pull the tissue away from the hip bone. Bit by bit, she removes the scar tissue, dropping each piece into a metal tin. She then uses bone from the surrounding hip to repair the damaged area, doing her best to recreate the bone's original structure. The scarring is gone, leaving just a slight surface scar for her patient. 30 minutes later, Tina moves on to the bullet. She signals the other person to cut a smaller incision over the leg. She pushes her fingers into the muscle, mystically separating it to reach the healed bullet lodged inside. She pulls it free and drops it into the tin, sealing up the muscle and skin with her power, leaving a slight bump. She raises her hands and says,
It would be bad form to lick the blood off my hands right now, wouldn't it? I'm shivering from thirst.
A stern voice answers.
Not funny, Tina. We have blood waiting for you back in your room. Take the gloves off and leave them on the patient.
She does, feeling the silent eyes on her as they put the blindfold back on, tie her back down to the wheelchair, and will her away.